This is Shannon, and we are here with Billboard Book Club, powered by Talk Shop Live. We are here with Grammy Award singer and author Corinne Bailey Rae.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. We were talking before, and I'm really excited to dive into this book. I feel like we've been talking and chatting about how important kids' books are and being able to speak to these emotions. So I'm really excited to dive in.
Thank you.
Yes. So before we get started, we want you to know when you order right now on Billboard Talk Shop Live, the book will be signed by Corinne Bailey Rae. So you will want to get yours today. All right. Click the shop button on Talk Shop Live or comment shop on Facebook and Instagram to receive links direct to order. And if you're watching on YouTube, click that link in the description. Stay tuned through the end because Corinne will read a few pages from the book, which I'm really excited for.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we start and learn more about this book, put your records on, which is here in the flesh with us. Can you tell us one key takeaway you want fans to take away from this book?
I think the most important thing about this book is to realize that the relationship, here we have, this is B and this is Portia, and B is the great niece, Portia is the great aunt. And I really wanted to have this relationship here. She's not a mother, she's not a grandmother, but they have this closeness, which is so important. You can see them looking at each other on the book. But this book is all about music and emotions. And it's about how when you find a new song, it's like finding a new friend to share your life with. How everything you've ever felt has been felt before, and how musicians make songs out of feelings. And so I really wanted that to be in the book. That's been a really important thing for me in my life, how music can carry you through all your feelings.
Well, I'm really excited to talk about these characters. So I would love for you to introduce us to Portia and B and really talk about that dynamic that we're speaking of, and kind of like the family unit that we're seeing in this book.
Okay. Well, the book starts on a Sunday. Every Sunday, B, who's here, she goes over to her Aunt Portia's house. Her dad's busy, her mum's busy, the twins, her brothers have got football practice. And she spends the day with her every single Sunday. So there's a kind of rhythm to their relationship, and they spend a lot of time together. They go in the garden and they're growing tomatoes, or they walk the dog. Portia has a little sausage dog called Buttons, and they feed the animals. And one day B says she wants to do something that she's never done before with Portia. But their relationship is based on this kind of regularity of seeing each other. I think we're all really lucky if we have family members like that, outside of our immediate unit, but someone who's a safe person, but also someone who has a bit of mystery to them. You don't know everything about them. And every time you sit down with them for a cup of tea, you learn a new thing, a place they traveled to when they were younger, or a hobby they have that you didn't know. Portia's an artist. She paints. She's traveled. Her house is full of all these treasures that she's brought back from all the trips. And B is a young girl who likes to skateboard. She likes to make daisy chains. She likes to have maths tests. She's a bright young girl, and she's just starting to think about the world in a different way and be able to articulate her feelings.
I mean, it's incredible to have someone outside of your mother and your father to be able to introduce you to things that you're like, I'm interested in, but I don't know what this is yet, but I'm so happy that I have a guide somewhere in my family. Is this something that you drew upon from personal experience?
Yes,
did you
I
have
really
your
did.
Portia?
Yes, I've got a few aunts that kind of make up a Portia for me. And I just think that relationship between niece and aunt is really special. Like you say, they're not your mother. They're someone who, they have authority with you, but they also have this unknown part to themselves, whether they have children or they don't have children. I had aunts with both. I still have a great aunt who's called Joyce, and another wonderful aunt called Ava, and I have an auntie called Auntie Rita, and I have this big family, Diane, and so both my parents have got a good amount of sisters, 4 on this side, 3 on this side. And I just think different people bring things to your life at different times. I had my aunts who lived in New Jersey. They would send me books from here in the US. And I always loved that. I love to be able to open books and see people that look like me, to see illustrations of children who had brown skin, who had, full hair. And I hadn't really grown up with that because in England there weren't really a lot of texts where you could open a book and see yourself, you know. So these books, these parcels that would arrive from New Jersey, they were really special to me, and I loved sitting with my aunts, and I loved that they loved to read, and I loved that they had this interior life that wasn't mine yet to know. And then of course, as becoming an adult, you know, it's amazing to be able to drift into this more equal relationship where you can ask them and they can tell you the things that you never thought you would get to hear.
I never thought about like that kind of mysticism of my relationships with my aunt, because I think that's really it. I'm like, wait, I didn't know you had a life like that.
Yes,
You know, it's
exactly.
like
Yeah, I didn't know you had this life. Yeah, I saw you cooking dinner for your children when I saw you put a plate of chicken in front of me. But I used to love when I went to carnival, all my aunts would go out in the evening, you know, when they were in their 20s and 30s. So we would wish we could go, you know, but we were just too young. We'd sit on the bed, but we'd see them getting ready, doing the hair and sharing clothes and like putting the lipstick on. It was almost like templates of kind of how to be an adult, how to be a woman, you know, to see these women transforming themselves and going out together, and they had this sisterly bond. And so yeah, there's definitely a feeling of that in this book.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we were just chatting and you were saying like this is the first day that you get to
Yes.
like physically touch it. And it's different when you see an image, and I'm sure being able to touch it and feel it, and like even as I'm looking at it now, it's like a radiating light from her, that I feel like directly ties to that feeling that you're talking about. And I'm so happy you could translate it in this book.
It's
Yeah.
really nice to have physical books. You know, I like to read. I'm someone who reads. You know, I have 2 children. I read to them, and so I really like the thing of, you know, you have one in the crook of your arm and one in the other, and it's a physical thing that you get to do, and you turn the pages, and especially before they're at an age when they can read and follow along. So you're all in the text, but they're in the illustration, and they're looking. You know, sometimes I'll say, okay, go and lie down now, and they say, no, we want to look at the pictures, and I think that's really important that the pictures have this story. And I've loved working with Gillian on this book, and she's brought so much texture. She has a color world in her illustrations that I had seen previous to this. So I love this kind of pink and purple and swirling kind of magical, wombic, nourishing sort of like color palette that we have in this book. And I'm looking forward to taking this back to my kids so they can read it.
I know. I'm sure they're going to be like, that one, please.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Well, I've read it so many times, and we've read it with the black and white, the scribbly sketches, and, you know, all like on a tablet. So it'd be really nice to actually hold the pages and, you know, bring out a bath time and all the things that happen to books. Food gets spilt on them and the pages get torn. You have to sellotape them. And I just like the character of books so much.
Yeah, I love the idea of the crooks. That's so sweet. So your song obviously Put Your Records On, we know. But it became this global anthem of joy and freedom. I want to know what inspired you to turn this song into this children's book.
I think part of the reason was that, that feeling of joy and the feeling of having a song that has this kind of sunshine. When I hear it, it lifts my mood. When I see the video, even kind of myself, you know, in my 20s, cycling around in a vineyard and, you know, in South Africa, I think about who I was. I think about who I've become. I think about that journey, and it's so nice for me to see that person that was me. And but I have so many songs like that, you know. So really, I guess this book came from a feeling of wanting to share something about music, how special music is. I feel like I really focus on particular songs, you know, and there's these 4 songs in the book. They're Henry Mancini, Baby Elephant Walk, and there's Jump in the Line by Harry Belafonte, A Bridge Over Troubled Water, which was written by Paul Simon, and it's Aretha Franklin's version singing it. And I really felt like I wanted to introduce people to these songs, children to these songs, you know, bees finding out about vinyl for the first time. And I really love the physicality of, you know, taking out a record, looking at the cover and seeing the art, and then taking it out and putting the needle on the record and listening to the whole song, listening to the whole side and how it fills the air. So I think that along with those 3 songs I mentioned, and then 3 Little Birds, which is the Bob Marley song, which is the start of Put Your Records On as well, you know, that quote. I just like tying in all these threads for myself, you know, my love of music, these relationships that you have in your family, the thing of being a young girl and sort of needing to find my own way. You know, that's part of what you put your records on is about. You know, you'll find yourself somewhere, somehow. And I felt like when I was writing that song, I was still, you know, I was in my 20s and I was still getting that feeling of who am I? What does it mean to be me? How do I express myself? You know, how do I look? How do I have my hair? What am I going to wear? Like all those things they're important at that age. That you're sort of arriving into yourself. And I thought, well, that actually starts when you're really young, you know, and you know, you're really lucky as a child if you have a good family around you and a sense of self. And I want that for all children, you know, regardless of your home situation, and to feel like music can be your friend. Music is a place where you can put your burden down. Music is a place where everything you've ever felt has been felt before, and songs have that. You can find the song that's just like, oh, you know, it just perfectly expresses what you're feeling. And I remember that from listening to the radio as a kid. I was like, how does Bananarama know how I feel about this boy? You know, it's like you don't realize you're not the only one. He's going through these things. And so it was, yeah, it just came out of love of music, love of childhood, love of family, you know, tying those threads together.
Yeah, I love this idea of, I mean, you said this before, but the music as friends, but then also thinking about going to a bookshelf and pulling out a song or a book that like directly ties to what you feel. I think that's really special in the way that you've been able to weave that throughout this book and throughout, seems like, your life, of that origin of you being able to find music to take you through and process and heal and maybe thrash and all the emotions through music. I think that's important, and I definitely feel like that's been represented in this book.
Saying that.
Yeah. So I do want to just have a little reminder, okay? So we're going to remember to click the shop button on Talk Shop Live or comment shop on Facebook and Instagram to receive links to order Put Your Records On with Corinne Bailey Rae's autograph. And if you're watching on YouTube, click that link in the description. So before we move on, I do want to ask one question. Was there a moment with your own children that really drove home the desire for this book and kind of reflected some of the themes that we see throughout there?
I think, you know, bedtime is a really important time. All parents know that. So I really like reading as a way to transition from the chaos of the day, you know, the sort of mad half hour that comes with children just getting the last bits of energy out. But I feel like a book is a really good way to say, okay, we finished all playing for the day. Everyone's brushed their teeth. Everyone's got their pajamas on. And now we're going to be together, and you know, whichever parent it is or whichever family member it is, sitting down and sort of reading a book. It's kind of like a performance, you know. So it's that thing of like, what book are they going to choose? Sometimes they choose something and you think, oh, I can just get lost in this, and you can do all the voices and you love the illustrations. And there's other times when the book kind of feels like sort of flat and a bit of a synopsis of a story, but it doesn't have description, it doesn't have texture, it doesn't, you know, when it, sometimes people, you know, when they give you the book, you think, oh, this one isn't my favorite. And I love when they pick, you know, some of my favorite books. So I just thought, oh, I really want to make a book that helps with those things, you know, something transitioning from the busyness of the day into kind of settling down, or to fill some time in the day. You know, I think with children, you can't always be, you know, baking and running and laughing and playing. That's sort of like, there's times in the day when you breathe out and there's times when you breathe in. And I always feel like a book, it just kind of helps to settle, you know, whether it's, you know, before you have your dinner or whatever it is, part of your routine. If you're really lucky to be able to read, and you can think, well, that's, you know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes in my day when I know I'm being really present. I'm not checking my emails, I'm not working, I'm not like trying to tidy up. I'm just giving them, this time I'm giving them my time, my voice. I am weaving in my personality into the books that the different authors written. So I think, yeah, I really love that time. And I thought, I want to make something that I can be part of that, you know, for my own children and also for other children, you know, as well. That's important to me.
That's so beautiful. I love that. Oh, okay. So we have some questions. We're going to take some questions from our audience.
So I have two. Mateo2789 wants to know, did writing a children's book feel similar to songwriting, or was the process completely different?
That's a really good question. And I didn't think it would feel anything like songwriting. But I did, once I'd said, right, I'm going to do it, I did find myself doing that same thing, which is lying in bed at night and thinking, oh, I just had this idea. And then going, and I have this desk and I had the sugar paper. I don't know if you call it that, but these big pieces of colourful paper. And I was just writing ideas here and there. And that is really how I write songs. So I don't write them from the beginning to the end. I don't write like, let's get the chorus. It's just kind of much more of a pulling a thread and sort of unraveling an idea. And that's really how it was with the book as well. So it had that same kind of excitement, urgency to it, which I didn't think I would get. So it's great to know that all the creative things kind of come through in the same way.
Jen wants to know, how long did it take you to write the book?
That's a good question. I mean, I definitely started writing it a long time ago. I think I didn't really understand the process with writing books. So that, the illustrator, we really wanted to work with Gillian, and she was finishing another project, and we waited a good while for her. And then she had to get into her process, and, she's doing things by hand. And so she took her time to do it, but I had already completed the book like a couple of years ago. I can't remember how long it took from start to finish, but I spent many sessions, and I had a really good editor at Penguin, because it was much, much longer than it is. And I didn't realize how long a picture book should be, or I hadn't done it before. So I wrote tons for this book, and then tons of it got kind of sculpted away. I think of all the scenes. I think of Portia sitting around with her old friends, and there's loads and loads of different scenes to the book. But I was reminded that it is a children's picture book. You don't want parents saying, that took me an hour to read. So I really liked that Laurie was able to help focus the book. So in that way, it took a while to write it all down, but then there was another process of kind of bringing it into focus, and that was a great, back and forth with my editor, sort of, making sure we agreed on each page, really.
That seems like a hard process. It's like, oh, these are all my babies. All these scenes are my babies. What do you mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure those scenes will find their life in other ways.
Well, it was good because I was able to read it to my own children, and if I could see them getting a bit, I think, okay, I don't need to describe every single thing that they're going to see when they go into this loft, because there'll also be illustration. That's the other thing. So yeah, I think when we finally arrived at the edit and I read it to them and they said again, I thought, yeah, that's the length that you want, not kind of like, oh, come back, children.
That's the stamp of approval.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I feel like we got it right in the end.
So we're going to get back into the questions, but just to remember, continue to click the shop button on Talk Shop Live, comment shop on Facebook and Instagram to receive links to your order, Put Your Records On. And if you're watching on YouTube, the link is in the description. Okay, back into the questions. Back to the business. So there's a song in the story for every emotion, for the whole rainbow of feelings. How important was emotional expression and emotional literacy in shaping the narrative for children?
I think emotional literacy is really, really important to children. I think so many of the problems that we see as adults in ourselves, in our friends, in our, mental health services are because at some point children are encouraged not to show how they really feel, not to say what they really think. And I think that is, has huge damage. I love being around children who really just, there's no filter and everything just comes out. They're not being rude, they just want to tell you how they are. But I think that's so important to teach children. Everything you feel is valid. You're allowed to express yourself. You find safe places and safe adults to do that with, and how, suppressed feelings can turn into much more complicated things. I think it's great that children can just let it out when they feel it, recognize it. I remember meeting some young people, and one young girl was talking, and she was saying, yeah, I guess I was really jealous when such and such happened. And I thought, I've never heard a child express that, be able to say, I was jealous. I think as a child, I would have found it really hard to say that Like, it would almost be shameful to admit you had certain feelings, whereas this kid was so sort of emotionally intelligent. And I thought that, that's one of the most useful life skills, being able to say, I feel this. This is how I'm going to express it. I know this feeling will pass. Just having those skills is really useful for all of us. And I think we can learn a lot from children.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like shame in certain feelings. We were talking about this earlier with some films that kind of like touch on those like shameful moments. So being able to assign art to things makes it a little bit easier to feel, because it's like, oh no, it's not bad. Someone wrote about it and they
Yes.
experienced it themselves. I want to know if there are any songs from your childhood. You were just talking about like, how did Bananarama do this? And know that I was going through the same thing. Are there any songs from your childhood that you find yourself revisiting?
Oh, I mean, so many of the songs I like are songs that I've lived with for a long time. I mean, I walked into a store the other day and Songs in the Key of Life was on, and just the atmosphere of that record, and it just takes me back to, growing up in my house. I can feel it. I can see the wool carpet. I can see the big wide windows. I can feel the sun coming through the windows. I just think music just locks in so many emotions for you. So I think, growing up in a house full of music, you don't have to be musicians, but just putting music on in the shared spaces, I think, is really important. Obviously we've all got the capacity now to be 5 different family members in 5 different sets of headphones, but I think it's great that people would play their, wild rock songs, and their mother might be, oh, do we have to listen to this one again? Or their mother might say, oh yeah, I remember this song. This is a cover of something else. I loved experiencing music with my parents as a child. We had the show called Top of the Pops, and so many songs in the 80s were covers of old songs, and my mum would say, this is another old one, and she would start singing along the old song to the new song. Mum, that's not how it goes. But I really liked that music was this shared and communal thing. So I go back to many of the songs of my childhood and the textures. I grew up with soul music in the house, and then I really got into indie as a child. I got into Nirvana and L7 and Veruca Salt and Belly, and but I would play that in the house, or Bjork, and like I liked when my mum would say something, or my dad would say something about a song, or they would say, oh, you should check out this, and I love that music kind of opened this conversation between us all as well.
So we have some questions. Let's go ahead and get some of those.
So Trish wants to know, where did the idea to write this book come about, and why this particular story?
I think the idea for the book came because I wanted to add something to the process of reading, for children's literature. We had looked at some children's books, and they were books about music, and I really want to talk about music and emotions together, how important that is for me. And I've really enjoyed the process of writing it.
And then one more here. Gina Lee wants to know, what age group is this book for?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think I could read it to a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old. I think you could probably read it to a 10-year-old or an 11-year-old. I guess it depends how much patience the child has got. There are a lot of descriptions in the book about music, which, I like to use a good vocabulary for children. I like when children say, what does that mean? So I think that's partly how you learn new words, isn't it? So there's some maybe words that a 4-year-old might not understand, but they can ask their parent what they are. And I think, I definitely know sort of like teens that could get something out of it. But I think it is, it's 3 to, I don't know, 10 or 11. I don't have like older kids, so I don't really know. But my nieces and nephews, I think, I could definitely read it to a 10-year-old, and hopefully it would keep their interest.
Especially if they're interested in music, I'm sure they'll find themselves coming back to this at multiple ages.
Yeah,
for sure.
or that thing, I mean, what I hope people do is think, oh, what does that song sound like? Let me check it out. I've heard that. Oh, I heard that song in an advert. Oh, I didn't know that was by this person. Oh, I know this, but I know a cover of it. And I just love how it kind of starts you on a journey. You can say, oh, just make all these realizations.
So we're going to get back into the questions, but again, remember to click the shop button on Talk Shop Live, comment shop on Facebook and Instagram to receive links to order Corinne Bailey Rae new children's book, Put Your Records On. And if you're watching on YouTube, click that link in the description. Okay, so now I want to talk, we've talked about Put Your Records On, the book. Now I want to transition into talking about some music. So I want to think about your career and how much it's spanned, how much you've done within your music career. And you've had #1 debut album, Grammy wins, collaborations with legends like Stevie Wonder and Herbie Hancock. So I want to know how your career and how those moments have shaped you as an author.
Oh, wow, that's a good question. How have they shaped me as an author? I mean, I think those moments have really just shaped me as a person. I think that the thing of being a young person and dreaming and thinking, you know, I was in an indie band when I was a teenager. So I used to play on small stages to like 50 people, 100 people. But we as a band, you know, we always dreamed of, it's the thing of having a record, right? So it's like you can record something and then it can go off in the world and you don't know what it's going to do. And that's really what that first record did for me. You know, I went from being a performer who I knew which 300 people liked me, you know, because I would sort of see them in various combinations around my city of Leeds. But actually putting something, making an actual record and then having people come up to me, all sorts of people in all different countries, but also, you know, some of my musical heroes who, you know, being able to say, oh, I'm into this, oh, I like you, oh, you're good, you know, getting that kind of seal of approval, and then just getting the way of being able to connect with people through your, you know, through my music, and then being able to tour all over the world. It just was, it was and is a sort of dream come true for me. I mean, some people are really lucky that you have something that you hope happens and you put in lots of work, but then it actually does happen. And so in a weird way, I feel like the last 20 years have kind of been like a weird dream. And I think that that is something that sometimes just feels that way in life, that amazing things happen, you know, like Prince came to see one of my shows, Stevie came to see one of my shows, like I got to play on stage with these amazing people and get good advice and support, and I just feel it feels very kind of dreamlike, sort of transcendent, which is how I feel on stage. So I think the way that those things have affected me as an author is just to back to that same thing of being a kid. It's like if you have a pencil and a pen, you can literally write any world into being. And to me, that's just such an incredible thing for anyone. Like anyone could do that, any single person. You know, even if you can't write, you could just, you know, record it in your parents' phone or something. You know, that a story, and there could be characters, and you can people them, and you can make them do anything. You could travel around the world, or to other planets, or to back in time, or that's all possible. I really feel like reading other people's work is a way of having many lives, sort of even just in this one life, that you could go out and you could be, you know, through Virginia Woolf, you could be a, you know, woman in England walking around in the, you know, 1920s, or like there's different lives that you can inhabit through reading literature. And so I think I just feel like I get to bring the richness of my experiences into my writing, into writing songs, into writing books. You know, I just feel lucky to do that.
So this is my last question, and you mentioned being on the stage, and in October 2026, a big moment is coming up, which
That's
is
right.
like kind of wild. Like when I looked at, like, I was like, wait, 20 years.
Yeah.
Self-titled album. We are celebrating. And I had to get this iconic Royal Albert Hall in London.
Yes, that's right.
So tell me about the road to October 27th, 2026, and what that moment means to you, and what you imagine it'll mean when you're there.
Exactly. It's like you have to kind of imagine it. I walked past the Royal Albert Hall, and it's just, like you say, this iconic building. I've played there before as part of something, you know, like I came out to a Christmas show, I came to do one song and then I left, or to do one or two songs. I just thought, you know, being there in this amazing building that they've used for all sorts of things, like horses would parade around there. And, you know, then I just saw the Luther Vandross documentary, and he was there, and sort of like everyone in between, from Victorian times, obviously, right the way through to the present day. It's beautiful. It's this big round building. It has a great sound. There's an intimacy, but it's grand as well, you know, with the sort of like the red velvet seats. And I just thought I would love to play there with this album. You know, I walk around the world and different people come up to me and say what different songs have meant to them. Oh, this song got me through this. I experienced this. Or I met my partner when we were at college, and now we're this, and we have these kids, or whatever it is. I feel I enjoy people's stories of telling me where they were when they first got into those songs. And those songs mean so much to me. You know, they were pulled from my life, you know, my childhood and my early teens and 20s. I put them in this, you know, this record, but then the record itself went on to change my life in such a dramatic way. And so I feel really grateful to the songs, and kind of that I honor them. You know, it's just, I don't know where they came from, and I'm really, really looking forward to playing all the songs on the record. So obviously when you're an artist, you make more and more work, and you know, you do a 2-hour concert, you can't play every song that you've ever written, especially the way I like to play songs. I like to stretch out. So I just thought, let's just do it. It's like, let's just do the first record and we'll go through the whole thing. And then at the end, I'm going to play some kind of like catching up, like what you might have missed, you know, some highlights from other work that I have made in this time. But I really want to play some of those songs I haven't played since, you know, 2006, 2007. Wow. I haven't actually sung them out loud. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it'd be really nice to kind of get back to those early feelings.
Yeah, you're gonna tap into some things. I'm excited for you. 20-year-old emotions and feelings.
Yeah,
You're gonna
yeah.
tap in. I'm excited. So before we get into some more audience questions, I want to remind everyone, click the shop button on Talk Shop Live or comment shop on Facebook and Instagram to receive links to order Corinne Bailey Rae's Put Your Records On with her autograph. Just had to make sure I let y'all know. And if you're watching on YouTube, the link is in the description. And then we are actually going to get into you reading a few pages if you're
I would love to do that.
I would love that.
Do you want me to do that now?
Yes, so
Okay.
we'll read about 1 to 3 pages.
Okay, where shall I go from? This is really exciting for me because it's the first time that I've had the book, you know, today. So, yeah, I'll just read here. I'll read from here. Okay, so this is she's been at Portia's house all day and they've done fun things. She says, I want to do something I've never done before. So then they go up these winding steps up to the attic, and this is what they see. Inside the room, at the very top of the house, Bee sees a tall vase with peacock feathers, sparkling mirrors, and an old sagging couch. There are boxes spilling with clothes, all in a fantastic jumble. What is all this? Asked Bee in surprise. Just some old things of mine and some that I'm storing for friends, says Portia. There are costumes from a circus troupe here somewhere. And what are these? Asked Bee, staring at rows and rows of thin packets on long wooden shelves. You know, she's never seen records before. These are my records. I've been collecting them since I was a child, says Portia. These are songs that I've loved, danced to, cried to, lived my life with. Cried to? Why? Bee asks. Oh, there's a song here for every emotion. Everything you feel has been felt by others before you. And people make music out of those feelings. Can we listen to one? Asked Bee. Of course, choose one, says Portia. Bee picks a record with a smiling man on the cover. Harry Belafonte's Shake, Shake, Sonora. Jump the line. When the needle touches a record, music bursts out. Hands clap, feet stomp, and a guitar twangs a sunshine melody. Then trumpets come screeching in like parrots, and it feels like a party in full swing. The beat jiggles and the melody dips and swoops. Before she knows it, Bee is dancing with Portia. Shake, shake, shake. She goes around the room wrapped in a feather boa. Portia sways her hands like the ocean waves. This is what it sounds like at carnival, shouts Portia over the music. I love it, Bee yells while she swirls. And I love the drawing as well. This is one of my favourite pages of the book, because I just love the kind of, you know, how do you draw sound?
Yeah.
I thought she did a really good job, you know, thinking about the trumpets and the birds and the maracas and the horns blaring. I think sometimes music can make you feel really silly and really giddy, and you know, just it inhabits you, right? It just does a thing to you. It makes you braver than you were and freer than you were, and I just think we're all lucky to have that, you know, to have access to that.
Yeah, I love it. It's so, the way you said that, was so good. I love it. I really relate to B. That's
Oh,
what I'll
yeah.
say.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You're a beaver. Yeah.
I really do. So I just want to thank you all for joining us on Talk Shop Live. Don't again forget to press the shop button or comment shop on Facebook or Instagram to receive a link in your DMs to purchase the book, which will be signed by Corinne Bailey Rae. Thank you so much for
Thank you
sharing
as
this.
well. It's nice to talk to you.
This was beautiful, and I am so excited to give this to my nieces and read this to them soon. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.